For the Bloomberg Forum in New York, I'm Ted Hampton. Joining me today is Jerry Golden. He's an executive vice president at Equitable Life, a unit of Equitable companies. Jerry, thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks, Ted.
You're a leading innovator in the field of variable annuities, and sales in the industry rose 44% in 1996, but just 18% in last year. Is there a slowdown there, and if so, what's causing it?
I don't think so. I think the long-term trend in variable annuities is a 15 to 30% compound growth rate for at least the next 4 or 5 years. So 18% is the lower end of the range, but it's still within that 15 to 30% compound rate of growth.
What are the demographic and other perhaps societal factors that are driving the increased demand for variable annuities across the country?
Well, I think first, individuals no longer can count on government or their employers to be the source of their pension or their retirement security. So individuals will have to provide that security on their own, and one of the vehicles is a variable annuity. You combine that with the baby boomers coming of age, you have the need for these individuals to rely on their own assets they can accumulate, and a variable annuity as a self-completing retirement program is a perfect fit to that market.
Why would someone purchase a variable annuity contract as opposed to some other investment product, for example, shares in a mutual fund? What are the benefits?
Well, first, the typical variable annuity buyer is someone who is invested in the 401k plan, an IRA, and has additional funds to invest. They have to be disciplined in looking at these assets for retirement. If they meet those criteria, then the buyer is somebody who is setting aside money, the purpose of which is to supplement any 401k plan, any pension, any Social Security, and to provide a source of income. Why they do in the form of variable annuity is that the earnings compound without tax, whether it be dividends, interest, and capital gains, and there's no $2,000, $10,000 limit as the amount you can put into a variable annuity. It's unlimited. So you combine the unlimited nature and the tax advantages tied with retirement security, it's a perfect fit.
But obviously you need a certain amount of time before that tax deferral advantage really shows up. What's the recommended age for starting a variable annuity?
One of the problems the industry has is people are starting too old. The average age is in excess of 60.
And these are typically what are called single premium deferred?
Single premium investment. So the 60-year-old would typically hold it 10 or 12 years, which works out okay, but it would be much more advantageous if 50-year-olds, 55-year-olds started investing, and they would have 10, 15 years before a typical age of 65 to 70, at which time they would take some income. The average amount of consideration for a variable annuity lump sum is about $40,000, though the Equitable average is closer to $60,000 to $70,000.
Why do you think people are getting started too late on this investment?
Well, I think it's finally catching on. That is, the 2 years of growth of 44% and 18% suggest it's becoming a mainstream kind of product. I think people were just not aware of it. They weren't brought to their attention by their financial intermediary. So I think that now you're going to see a younger buyer. The one reason people used to say that variable annuities didn't make sense for the younger buyer is that you had a penalty if you made a withdrawal before 59 and a half. Beside to having income tax, you'd have a penalty tax, and they said, therefore, it appealed to somebody who was going to cross that 59 and a half age relatively quickly. I don't agree with that. It should go to a 50-year-old, even a 40-year-old who has some discipline.
There was a tax threat following the cut in the capital gains tax rate, which some people thought could put a damper on sales of variable annuities. There was a proposal from the Clinton administration to tax inter-fund transfers in these variable annuity accounts. What's the risk that someone who gets into a variable annuity now will face an adverse tax proposal that will hurt in the future?
Well, first, the tax proposal was somewhat misguided. If we're trying to find ways for people to save for retirement, a variable annuity is the perfect vehicle.